I'm originally from Venezuela. Moved here when I was 18 years old. I had the cleaning cars and dishwashing and being a server. As I was doing those type of jobs, I knew it was not where I wanted to stay. I knew that I was meant to do more.
And customizing them, like, do you draw on them, or are they like company logos, or like what does that look like?
So they send us kind of their logos. So we paint it on them. We do custom work on the swooshes. So we laser engrave their logo as a pattern on the swoosh. So
That's
I
awesome.
mean, the sky's the limit. We deconstruct the shoe and then put it back again. And we work with celebrities, athletes, mom and pop shops, all the way to our biggest client is $1 billion company.
What's a time in your life that stands out where you walked away from something because it didn't align with you, and ultimately it was for the better?
This is how crazy life is, man. Like one decision could change everything.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to UPBEAT. Appreciate you being here, listening in. We've got a very special guest today, Raynei Villarreal. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, Parker. Excited to be here.
Me too. I'm excited to get into your story. Before I do, though, I just want to introduce you to the listeners. You know, you're the CEO and creative director of GMRT Customs, and you've got a podcast that might be coming back, which I'm excited to hear about. And a passion for Jesus, shoes, style, fine colognes, and elevating everyone around you. I got that right from your Instagram. Can you tell?
Yeah. I was like, man, you know me pretty well.
No, so if you don't mind giving us like a 1 or 2 minute breakdown of who you are, what you do, and just introduce yourself to the listeners.
Hey, well, thank you so much, Parker. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for the opportunity just to kind of share my story and hopefully impact some people that are listening and, push them to keep going on the dream and the goals. My name is Raynei. I'm originally from Venezuela. Moved here when I was 18 years old, hungry and willing to, learn what it takes to get to that next level, that what we so-call the American dream. And when I landed here, I realized, okay, I'm 18 years behind from people that were born here. So how do I make that jump, that step faster? And I remember just, having all kinds of random jobs, but the best way to describe it is I had the cleaning cars and dishwashing and being a server and things like that. And as I was doing those type of jobs, I knew it was not where I wanted to stay. I knew that I was meant to do more. I always had it inside of me. I didn't know what it was, and it's been a long journey. I've been 8 years an entrepreneur. 6 of those has been full time doing my own thing, relying on my skills and the people around me to get that paycheck. Even sometimes you don't get a paycheck. You're just paying other people and, trying to figure it all out. So I'm excited to be here and share a little bit of what it's taken to get to this point.
Yeah, no doubt going to be an impact and an inspiration for the listeners and for me, because that's quite the story, coming here from Venezuela and then working and building all of everything you have, which with the shoes thing, that sometimes can be tricky, I think, for the average Joe to wrap their head around what it is exactly you do with the shoes and with GMRT Customs. So if you don't mind breaking down what you do with that too, we're interested.
Yeah, so I started the brand. The brand was it started 8 years ago. It was actually a fitness clothing brand. And, the beginning few years, we were just doing clothing. We went from fitness to streetwear. Then I had retail stores. And during that journey that I had the retail store, I had a buddy of mine that introduced me to custom shoes. And I looked at the shoes that he was making. And in my head, I was like, I think I can do that better. And then I started making shoes in the back of the store, of a retail store. And then at the beginning, the first few years, it was probably like 15 to 20% of our business. It was not a whole lot. But during 2021, like right out, we were in that COVID phase, getting kind of like out of it. I had a good mentor of mine that was like, dude, your business is a custom shoe. And in 2021, I decided to pivot, close all my retail stores. I stopped doing clothing brand. Stopped doing everything else just to focus on the shoes and master that craft. And we've been doing that ever since then. We work with celebrities, athletes, mom and pop shops, all the way to our biggest client is $1 billion company. So it's been a fulfilling journey and understanding what I actually do. So I had a good mentor of mine that he helped me put this together, which is my product is just a vehicle to help solve people's problems. So when I go to a client, especially our corporate clients, in my head I'm like, how do I solve their problem? To incentivize their team, to make them look good, to show them appreciation. So that's what my product solves to all of these corporations, and I focus on that. So that's what we've been doing the last 4 years or so, just focusing on shoes and really mastering that craft.
And customizing them, like, do you draw on them, or is it like company logos, or like what does that look
Yeah.
like?
Yeah, I actually have a few samples here that I can show you really quick. This is a good sample.
Let's do
Uh,
it.
this is a door-to-door company. So they send us kind of their logos while they were raffling. So we paint it on them. We do custom work on the swooshes. So we laser engrave their logo as a pattern on the swoosh. So
That's
I mean,
awesome.
the sky's the limit. We deconstruct the shoe and then put it back again.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah,
Well, first of all, very unique path, which is perfect for, showcasing on this podcast because we're inspiring, all kinds of creatives, entrepreneurs, ADHDers with whatever it is that they've got going on, their ideas. So you're an inspiration, man. It shows people you're the proof, like if people have an idea, they can take that idea and turn it into something.
yeah. And that's the big thing, like you know how it is. When you're in the journey, you go through, year one, year two, year three. You see people come and go. And what I've noticed is the ones that don't quit, those are the ones that make it. Because failure is gonna come. Like I'm failing every day. Like I'm figuring it out every single day. I'm making mistakes, but that doesn't stop me. I remember when I started, like a little small mistake will like stop me completely. And now it's just the mindset that, oh, okay, that means that that's not the right way to go. Let's go the other way. And it's just a constant thing. So a good advice for everybody that at least that are starting out is don't quit. That's just literally the one recipe of success is not quitting.
Right? You can't fail if you keep going, right? Love
Amen.
that. Love that. Actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to share just a little bit of something that happened recently to me this last week or so, which by the time this episode comes out will be a couple months later, but I started beatboxing and performing like at assemblies and talent shows as a little kid. And literally just this last week, I got to speak and beatbox at an event in my hometown where I grew up at the very school district where I was raised. And that was kind of emotional for me, not gonna lie, because I
Mm,
was like, dang, this is years later at the place where I felt like giving up a lot, at the place where I felt misunderstood, at the place where nobody could see kind of the dream or understand the fact that you could get paid to beatbox and be creative. And so to come back and have all that be right where I grew up was insane. But to bring it back to what you said, it's because I never stopped it. If I stopped,
mhm.
that would be a different story.
Dude, that's so good. It's good that, sharing that is that reminder, never quit.
Right. And
Yeah.
likewise with what you've got going on, I want to ask you because your story of moving here and then building this business, right? Obviously, a lot of challenges, but you mentioned two things so far. I want to kind of spotlight. One is your relationship with money. I'm curious what that is these days now that you've had some success. And then with the second thing is you mentioned a mentor, having solid mentorship. So what's your relationship with money and how important have these people been to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. It ties up really good. So first of all, with money, what I realized, so during the journey, I've lost it all twice. And you always think you need money, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, we all need money and all of that. But what I've realized, we've had the opportunity to have investors come in, and I almost did it. But now that I'm like in the stage of the journey that I'm in, I'm glad I didn't, because not having, all the money that you think you need has helped me be resourceful. So, with that being said, I'm always looking at where the opportunity is, even if it doesn't mean that I'm going to get something in return right away. Because that's a lot of what I do. Like, I'm planting seeds on relationships with my clients, with potential clients, with friends. And I'm just planting seeds. And then eventually, like, those come back. Like today, I just had a guy text me that needed a corporate order, and this was a referral from somebody that I did shoes 2.5 years ago. I was like, oh, Jeremy, oh, I
I love
remember.
that.
Yeah, I remember what we did for you. And it's like, it's just kind of how it works. So that's how that relationship with, money has been developing. But also, like, with mentors, this is a great question, because I love entrepreneurship. I love personal development and growth. Because of the nature of the business that I get to do, I meet a lot of cool individuals, guys that think big. And what I started doing right in the beginning of GMRT Customs, when we were doing shoes, I wanted to be friends with these guys. Yes, I'm designing a shoe for you, but I want to learn what you're doing. I know what I'm gonna create for you. I already know. I know we're gonna make a cool shoe for you, but I want to be your friend. And I was just kind of like that guy that was annoying, like asking, hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? Like, I will go to their events. That's one thing that I do all the time. I try to show up to my clients' events. Even if we just done one deal together, or even if we haven't done deals together, I'm showing up. I want you to see my face. I'm in the game just as you are. You might be at another level than I am, but I'm coming, baby. I'm showing up. And a lot of my mentors they started as clients, and then it became a friendship after. And that's kind of how I've been playing this journey so far. But I wouldn't help our listeners right now if I wouldn't tell you too that, God's been a big part of this journey. I became Christian about 3 years ago. I found Jesus. I was leaving for the world, like 100%. Like, I was doing everything the world was telling me, and my business wasn't succeeding. I was having a lot of issues. There was something not aligning. It doesn't mean I'm perfect right now. I'm still making mistakes. I'm still learning every single day. But once I had that relationship with Christ, it was something really shift. And it's been a beautiful journey for me, because even though, we make cool shoes, I meet great people, that doesn't, it doesn't define who I am. That's just part of me. And because what I was seeing, especially getting to see behind the scenes on, like, some of the big CEOs that I work with and big influential people that I work with, was that a lot of times there's ego involved. And if you don't have that ego in check, it could ruin you. And I've noticed that very quick, very quick. That's what I think God wanted me to grab me right away before, I went deep on this journey, because I could have been that guy too. I know myself. I keep myself in check every single day, just because, the nature of humans, we're made out of flesh. So the flesh always wants to take over, and you always got to have that realignment that, hey, I'm in the world, but I don't belong in the world. Like, how do I help other people? How do I bring light and joy? So I know I went a little bit all over the place with that, but I also wanted to add that on, because it's been, like, I call it, to my closest friends, that my relationship with Christ and God it's my secret sauce. I pull up to events, I pray, and I'm like, all right, God, give me the power, the strength, so when I show into this room, people notice me. And you just walk in with a confidence. It doesn't matter how much money that guy has, or how many followers they have, or if they're driving a Lamborghini or whatever it is, because at least to me at the beginning, that would kind of like scare me. I'm like, man, I don't know how to talk to these guys because look at the car that they're driving or the watch that they're wearing. What are they gonna learn from me? So it's been a beautiful journey, just kind of adding business, God, money, success, and all of it together.
Amazing. Also, real quick, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Hopefully that doesn't do that again. It was driving me nuts though. However, maybe we'll keep this in just for a sec because I want to share how real this is. You brought up Jesus Christ and God and how that has played a role in your life, and then instantly, like, we were having tech issues and things were like trying to kick me out. I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah,
Somebody doesn't want this message to get out there,
yeah,
but we're going to make sure it
yeah,
gets out there, man.
yeah, 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 yeah.
No, thank you for opening up about all that. So much value, even with what you said about being a mentor or having
Hmm.
mentors. You became interested in their lives and in what they do, and you became curious, and you led with value and just built friendships and solid relationships. And ultimately, that's what led to them helping you out too in the long run. And then with everything you mentioned about religion, I wanted to double down on that and ask you, what's been your experience with that? So when you moved here and all that, were you not very religious, and then this is kind of a new phase for you?
Yeah, so I grew up so in Venezuela. Catholicism is huge. Everybody's Catholic, so I would say I was Catholic, but the thing is, if you really think about it, when people look at any sort of religion and you ask them who's God or who's Christ, like they think about it's like this figure up in the sky, and I don't know, like, and that's it. That's like you have to do good or have to do bad. So you don't really know in depth what it was. So I would say I was kind of that guy. I was like, I don't know, God's up there, but I'm living my own life. Who knows? But to me, like when I became Christian, it was a little bit more of like I had an encounter with Jesus. So I was going to, I'm still going there. It's called Awaken Church. They're over here in like 10 minutes from where I live. And they actually have a new campus in Boise right now. They just opened it a couple months ago. Uh,
Awesome.
and, and then somebody commissioned some shoes from me for a pastor there. But I didn't know it was a church. So I show up. They pay good money for the shoes. I keep in mind I know zero about this church. I know zero about God. I nothing. I show up and I listen to this guy speaking with power. I've never heard anybody speaking like that. And I've been to a lot of events, and I was like, that guy has something that I don't have. What is it? And I kept coming back. I kept coming back, just showing up, learning. Then slowly I did a whole year Bible study program through the church. It was a leadership program, and it just been a journey that I just been obsessed with. The more I lean into it, the more breakthroughs I have, the more freedom. And I love how you brought up the right now that we were having issues with the audio. It's funny, but that's actually how good and evil work. The enemy and God, like when God wants to make a way for all of us, because all of us have a mission in life. The enemy tries to come in and get you. Hey, no, don't look over here. Look to your left. Let's go over here, because it does it to me all the time. And that's I want to tie this with structure. I'm a structure guy. I like routines, setting plays. I like to do the same thing every day. I like to show up. I know all my tasks and all of that. That helps me think clear because I have a structure. When I don't have that, I'm all over the place. Like old vices maybe want to come back. Other things that I'm like, I already let go. I'm free. So that's why a lot of it, I love, you know, church, or some people call it church, but I'm trying to like walking with God. That's the right word, because anybody can go to a church, but you might not have a relationship with God. So I love having a relationship with God, business, structures, because it all ties together. God is like he's involved in everything. So that to me has been probably the secret sauce for me the last, I will say, probably 2 years now. Just been really dialing in with that. And then it's funny because God just puts the right people in front of you. And a lot of the big deals that I'm working on right now, it's been nothing that I mean, I work hard, but it's just been like he just puts the right people in front of me, and then I kind of already know what to do, and then bam, something happens.
Amazing. I think that's happening right now, to be honest. Braden really knew what he was doing when he recommended some guests for the show, because you're like a
Yeah.
perfect guest. Something I've been struggling with the last, 7 or 8 months before bringing the episodes back to the podcast was basically what I was doing is getting right with myself and getting right with God and trying really hard to be more aware of things and live more aligned.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that was kind of your secret sauce. And you'd mentioned getting kind of aligned again. So, and I was going to ask you about routine. So I'm glad you brought up structure. What are some of the things you do in your routine to make sure that you're staying aligned every day?
Yeah, dude, I love that question. So first of all, I do a couple things. Have you this year? I'm doing what 75 hard, but I'm actually doing the whole year. I'm doing 75. It's actually called the Live Hard program.
Mm.
So for an entire year, two works out a day, one outside, reading, gallon water, diet, picture. Like I'm doing all of that. So that builds a foundation already. Like I know these. That's the bare minimum for me right now. If I'm not doing my two works out a day, my gallon of water, eating clean, reading, I'm failing already. So that's already my standard every single day. Holidays, doesn't matter how the weather is, I'm getting all of that done. So once we have that baseline, then for me, God first, and I want to emphasize this with people. It doesn't mean you're perfect. I mean, people, like, it's literally in the Bible. I last year I read the Bible from beginning to end. This year I'm reading it again. So in the Bible it talks about like no man is perfect. Everybody's gonna sin. So that already in my head, I'm like, cool. It doesn't mean I'm openly doing whatever God tells me not to do, but it also I'm walking in freedom. I accepted Christ. So I'm already, like, every day I get on the word of God. So every morning I get up, read my Bible, do some prayer, bam, and then I go to the gym. And at the gym I'm working out. I'm listening to an audiobook, which is right now I'm doing two. So I do a life purpose driven life. It's a pastor. It's 45 days. You can read one chapter a day. It's free on YouTube if you don't want to read it. And then I read Think and Grow Rich. I'm being obsessed with that book the last month.
I
Every day
love
I
that
read a
book.
chapter. Yeah, every day reading a chapter. It's just kind of repetitive at this point, but I was listening to one guy, Rob, the older guy. What's his name? Rob something. I can't remember. He died. But he was like, I was listening to a podcast. He's like, I read this book for 50 years, and I seen the success that he has. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna read it too. I don't know what. I was just like, okay, if you said you read it and I seen your success, I'm gonna read a chapter a day. So I've been doing that. So once I have that routine, when I get to the studio, I have already what they call the power list. So my list, like today's, I have about, typically I have about 7 to 10 tasks that I got to do every single day. It changes every day, but there's a few that are consistent, and I use a lot of AI tools to help me with that. So I also utilize AI softwares to make my life easier. That's part of my routine. And then from I'll meet with my team and do all of that, and then I go hard till like probably 7 p.m., and then I go on another walk at the end of my day, and I'm just kind of like thinking about my day, how it went, what went good, what went bad. And then I do that, honestly, bro. I try to do that every single day. If I could stay in that bubble every single day, I can see the growth. So that's why I love routines, and anything that gets me of that routine, I really think about it, because I just like doing the same thing. And one thing that this is like a nugget for people that I've learned, serve. And what does that mean? I serve in my church. So but you can serve anywhere. You can serve anybody. That do something for other people that you're not getting any money in return. You're just literally giving your time. So right now, I've served multiple ministries in my church. When you serve at a church, you're not getting paid. You're just serving to help the Lord and move His kingdom forward. Something that I love about my church is just like kind of like they've been putting me in places that I enjoy. I used to lead a team that, and for the new people coming to church, then some leadership stuff. Now I'm leading, helping lead a social media team. So it's just been kind of fun, just putting everything that I do already in the marketplace and bringing it to the church and just like helping, move His kingdom forward.
Absolutely love that. So much gold in there. So thank you for sharing. I would even say this counts as serving, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you're taking your time to come on here and 30, 40 minutes or so, share a ton of value and important lessons that you've learned, to shave off some time for the listener, to make sure that we can be better in our lives. And I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
I have a couple more questions here, and then we'll kind of close things out if you're cool with that.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been toying around with two different segment ideas. These are kind of fresh just because trying to make this podcast a little bit more improved. But one segment is called Pays to Be Real. And it's centered around a question of what's a time in your life? I'm sure we both have many, but what's a time in your life that stands out where you walked away from something because it didn't align with you, and ultimately it was for the better?
Hmm. It's a great question. Actually, I have it for you. So in September 2021, this is how crazy like life is, man. Like one decision could change everything. Like we don't really think about it until like you actually look back. You're like, man,
Right.
if I would have won left, I'm somewhere else.
Yeah.
In 2021, September 2021, I have a retail store up in Farmington, one of the best malls here in Utah. Beautiful mall. Like, I mean, people thought I was killing it. And on paper, yeah, like I had all the store, nice location, beautiful building. Hey, but I was struggling, man. I'm working Monday through Sunday, long hours. Retail hours suck, by the way. Man, they were rough. And I'm already like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I'm already, I don't know, 6 years in. Everybody's telling me to quit. It's time to quit. Even my own parents, man, that hurts. Even like your own family close to you, they're telling you, hey, it's time to quit. And I would say, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I'm already in debt. Uh, I can't do anything. My dad tells me, my dad's a very successful guy, so he was like, hey, one of my clients, they own a construction company. They're making good money, and you should go into that. I'll help you pay for the license. You gotta go to school for like, I don't know, it was like a week or something, and I'll help you pay for that. Close the store, go into that, and start making some money. At least you can pay your own bills and all that. Great. And at the same time, I'm still keeping the business running. People are like, nobody knows. And then I have one friend of mine. Now he's a friend, but before that, it was a client. Going back to the relationships, so hey, I want this shoe for, at the time it was for Sean Whalen, and he was like, hey, I want it. No, actually, no, I want this shoe for me, and then I'll show it to Sean. So we did a Lions Not Sheep shoe, and I meet with my business partner Ozzy, and I'm like, hey, let's do this shoe. I think it could open a lot of doors, but he doesn't know that in the back end, this is our last shoe. I don't have anything else to give. We do the shoe, we kill it. At the time, we killed it at the level that our mindset was. It was the best shoe we've ever done. Right now, that shoe would not even pass our vibe. But anyway, so I we do the shoe, and then he posted it on Instagram, and then I get another client from that, and I was like, whoa, I think I got something here. And then I just call my dad and I tell him, hey, you know what? I'm not quitting. I'm not quitting.
Right.
I'm gonna go all in on the shoes. I'm gonna close the store. I'm gonna do this. I came with like a plan, and I just went and did it. And the crazy thing with that was that I had no money saved. I remember I closed the store, cost me a lot of money to close that store, move here. I paid everything, and my bank account probably had like $30. And I'm sitting in my garage and being like, okay, I got 30 days to figure this out. And I haven't looked back since then.
Wow. Yeah, that's a perfect example. That's such a powerful story.
Yeah, yeah,
Being
no,
able
it's
to
it.
just quit or leave the things that are not aligned, double down on the things that are, and choose to not quit, and then it
Hmm.
steamrolled or snowballed into what it is today.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I don't regret it, like, and obviously, for me, I set my life up to be able to do that in a way that, I'm not married, I don't have kids, so I can take those risks. I'm not saying like somebody that's married has kids and all that. You can no. I started early in my 20s, so as you get older, it's a little bit different. You got a family, a mortgage. That I set my life up to that I can do things like this because I knew I was meant to be outside of the matrix. I never wanted to be in the matrix. I That's why I'm an entrepreneur, but that meant doing some sacrifices that other people wouldn't see. It meant that putting my own personal life on pause. Even right now, I have a good relationship, and it's a learning curve for me because now I'm adding somebody into my life that, okay, like, I'm actually want to take this serious. So what's the balance there? Because I've been operating on my own, like taking all the risks for so long. So also that's something that our listeners should probably, take into account, especially if you're young and your 20s. Man, go take the risk, because when you're 30, man, I'm grateful that I've took those risks right now. I'm 32 right now. And I'm like, dude, I'm so grateful because I'm seeing all of the other people that I grew up with, or that started out and they quit and now they have kids. It's like, man, it's rough. Now I'm like, it doesn't mean that I made it, but I've done it for long enough that it makes it a little bit easier.
True, and I would bet that because I'm religious and spiritual too, and I think that there's tremendous blessings for living aligned and staying right with
Hmm.
Jesus. You know.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's important to stay aligned. What One thing that I recommend, whether people are, if they call them religious or believer, go read Proverbs every single day. Proverbs has about, I think it's either 29 or 30 chapters. Read a chapter a day. Don't If you don't want to read anything from the Bible, the Old Testament or the New Testament, go read Proverbs. Proverbs will change anybody's life. And this goes back to, being aware of the people that you're communicating with. So I met this one guy at my church. This dude is legit, and I'm like, I go talk to him about Christ, and I'm like, dude, I'm struggling with this and all that. He's like, read Proverbs. And I ask him, well, how long have you been Christian? Oh, I've been Christian 32 years of my life. I'm like, dude, I'm 32, so you know something that I don't know. So I'm gonna go read Proverbs every single day. Dude, I read Proverbs every day and I feel like I'm a fool. Like, literally tells you, like, do this, you're a fool. Like, I'm like, and it's just that alignment that, hey, do these things the best you can, because you're still gonna fail. That's why it's important not to read more than just, one chapter on the Bible, but at least it's the secret weapon that you can apply that anywhere in the market, relationship, business, finances, whatever, and it will set you aside from everybody else.
Love that. So the last kind of segment question here is it's called the meaning segment, and I wanted to ask, what's the meaning behind what you do now, and what's been maybe a big takeaway from this episode today that you'd want to double down on for the listeners?
Yeah, so that's a great question. For me, the meaning has changed over the years. At the beginning, when I started my journey, it was all about like, oh, I want to have the Lamborghinis and all of this stuff. Don't get me wrong, I still want them, but it kind of shifted a little bit as I've been scaling the brand and growing as a person. It's been more like I want to make so much money that I can help my team. So the dreams that they had fit into my vision. So what does that mean? Well, we're locating a very nice area here. I'm looking at $1 million houses. So I'm looking, what is that guy doing to afford $1 million house? So to me, it's like, what do I need to do as a business owner and a leader that my team could afford $1 million house? This is just an example that my team can have, a family, a wife that can stay at home, and the kids. So I'm like amplifying the vision bigger and bigger. So that's mainly my why. And obviously, being financially secure, that's my big why. And one big takeaway that from this will probably be just have that alignment with your creator. Whatever you believe in, the Bible is the oldest book in history. And if you're listening to this, to all of our listeners here, you're already wanting more out of life. You already want to be in the top 1%. You already want to be making that money, or when you show up to an event, people know who you are, what you're doing. There's a lot of wisdom in there. I've read all the personal development books. I have a massive library, but one book that I read every day and that I will read every day for the rest of my life is the Bible, because there's just so many structure in there that if you apply it, it would just make you way better person. And in the marketplace, you will be the highlight. And I'm not just making this up. I'm speaking from my own personal experience, because I've done business without Christ and I've done business with Christ, and I'll take him all day long.
Yeah, co-creating with our creator, that's
Amen.
That involving him in the decisions. I think that's amazing. Thank you. Raynei Villarreal on UPBEAT. Thanks for being here.
Let's go.
It's kind of a tradition to close out with a beatbox, so I'm going to do a beatbox with your name in it.
Let's go.
Thank you, Raynei. Raynei Villarreal. Awesome.
Yo.
Thank you for being on UPBEAT, man.
Dude, that was pretty cool, man.
Thank you.